Good morning. We live in uncertain times with many problems confronting us, and one of the most urgent is climate change. It's a huge challenge, but it's one we have to tackle, and we have to tackle it together. The IPCC has warned that more than 3.5 billion people globally are highly vulnerable to climate change, to extreme heat, heavy rainfall, drought and fire. Right now, India and Pakistan are experiencing extreme heat of nearly 50 degrees Celsius or more, resulting in crop losses, water outages and power disruption. And closer to home, Ireland experienced 5 extreme weather events last year. A drought in June, a heatwave in July, the warmest September on record, storms in November and December. Events like this will become more common if we don't act. Irish Water warned just recently of potential water supply problems as we approach the summer, and this is a concern for households and businesses. We could be overwhelmed by these warnings, but that's not the best way forward. Rather, we should be motivated to take swift and effective action to avoid these threats in the future. So today I want to lay out what the EU is doing to support companies and financial institutions to become more sustainable and to help us in the fight against climate change. The European Green Deal is the EU's plan to tackle climate change. We're committed to becoming climate neutral by 2050. We'll get there by supporting green growth, creating green jobs and boosting green investment, supporting new businesses that make products from recycled materials, helping people retrain so they can work in expanding sectors like retrofitting houses. Supporting the financing of renewable energy like wind and solar power is also essential. Our work is now more urgent due to Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. In Europe, we are too dependent on fossil fuel imports. We need to change this for our own energy security, but also for the climate. The changes we need to make are absolutely essential and urgent, but they will not come cheap. Public finance will go a long way, but we need private finance to play its full part. And this is where the EU's sustainable finance agenda kicks in. The financial system itself needs to become sustainable. It also needs to fund the transition to sustainability of the wider economy. And that's what our work in sustainable finance is all about. Sustainability should be run in the very veins of all businesses. It should drive corporate strategies. It must also inform investment choices and decisions. Making the necessary changes will not be easy, but it is essential. It's also an opportunity to create a better economy and society. Here in the Commission, we're working on policies and legislation to enable the shift towards a more sustainable economy and society take place. We've set very clear targets and put the necessary legislation in place to make sure that we meet our ambitious climate goals. And we recognise that businesses start from very different places on the road towards sustainability, as indeed do member states. Some have longer ways to go than others and need to plan the step-by-step journey towards sustainability. We need a common understanding of what is sustainable and how to manage and fund the transition. In financial services, the key reference point is the EU taxonomy. It provides a common language on sustainability, classifying economic activities that make the biggest contribution to tackling climate change and environmental issues. It helps companies to plan their transition by giving clear parameters on what is acknowledged today as sustainable. And it helps investors finance sustainable activities by also recognising the capital expenditure plans that transform an activity into a sustainable one. The first list of economic activities that can make a substantial contribution to climate change adaptation and mitigation, that's the so-called First Climate Delegated Act, came into force in January. Now it covers 170 economic activities, representing about 40% of EU-listed companies, and it includes things like renewable energy and energy efficiency measures. We're working to expand the taxonomy to include activities that contribute to our environmental goals, biodiversity, water, pollution and circular economy. Developing the taxonomy is a complex process, and to make it easier to navigate, we have the Taxonomy Compass, which you will find online. This helps companies and investors to easily find the information they're interested in within the list of activities already covered by the taxonomy. The next step is that we need to be able to see the change. Investors want to know what companies are doing around sustainability. Civil society and NGOs want to be able to check what impact companies have on the environment. And companies need to be able to easily report what they're doing, especially to show their progress. Now here we need clear, comparable and accessible information on how companies perform when it comes to climate and the environment. Strengthening the EU's corporate sustainability reporting rules is therefore essential. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, will act as a management tool for companies to better integrate sustainability into their activities and to report on what they're doing. At the very core of this proposal are mandatory EU sustainability reporting standards. Today, there are a multiple of standards, formats and expectations, and this is both confusing and it's costly. So EU standards will provide a cost-effective reporting solution for companies. While EU standards must respond to our specific needs, our standards will build on and contribute to global standardisation initiatives. Cooperation between global and regional standard setters is key to assure coherence and compatibility. To meet digitalisation objectives, companies will have to tag sustainability information to make it machine readable. And this information will feed into the future European Single Access Point, our plan to set up a digital one-stop shop for company information across the European Union. The CSRD proposal covers large companies and listed companies, including listed SMEs. And these are included because they risk being excluded from investment portfolios if they don't provide the same quality of information as large listed companies. It's a question of ensuring SME access to finance. But to ensure proportionality, listed SMEs have a lighter reporting regime, simpler standards, and a 3-year phase-in for the requirements. We're not proposing any mandatory requirements for non-listed SMEs, and these are the overwhelming majority of SMEs in Europe. However, they would be able to use the same SME standards on a voluntary basis. And this should help them deal with the increase in demand for information from company clients, the financial sector, and indeed others. The SME standards will also guard against excessive burdens, as they establish how much information is reasonable to expect from an SME. At the moment, the European Parliament and Council are finishing their discussions on the CSRD proposal. So there may be changes, but the essential purpose of strengthening sustainability reporting will prevail. In the meantime, the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, EFRAG, which drafts EU accountancy standards, is making progress on technical work to draft the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. These draft standards are the first set of standards required under the CSRD proposal. They cover the full range of sustainability issues: environment, social and governance. EFRAG has recently launched a public consultation on the draft standards, and we encourage all interested stakeholders to respond. In an efficient sustainable finance ecosystem, it's also important to ensure the flow of information. Disclosures from businesses have to be translated into sustainability information about the financial products that finance them. And that information needs to be clear throughout the financial value chain, right down to the end investors. That can mean retail investors, private individuals, for example. But it can also mean big institutional investors, whose investment decisions can have a huge real-world impact. The Regulation on Sustainable Finance Disclosures, SFDR, provides a disclosure framework to financial market participants on sustainability risks and opportunities. It lays down concrete sustainability disclosure obligations, which in turn make our financial markets more transparent. Another initiative is provided in the Markets in Financial Instruments Directive. And this introduces the idea that client sustainability preferences should be taken account of when providing investment advice. Looking to the future, we'll put an emphasis on the implementation of the sustainable finance agenda, and we will focus on facilitating the transition. We want all parts of the financial system to become more sustainable, regardless of their starting point. In July last year, the Commission put forward a new strategy for financing the transition to a sustainable economy. And here the goal is to ensure the sustainable transition is inclusive, in particular of individuals and SMEs, to increase the financial sector's resilience to risks and its contribution to sustainability, and to foster global ambition on sustainable finance. The transition to a climate neutral and sustainable economy is an ongoing process, and it will not happen overnight. It means we need to keep on reducing emissions to reach our long-term targets. We need to move away from the most harmful activities as soon as possible. And we might need to take a number of intermediate steps along the way until we reach our goal of being fully sustainable. So the EU Sustainable Finance Agenda is looking towards how to support transition efforts. For this to work, businesses will have to actively communicate their plans and the progress on their path towards sustainability. In the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, the Commission is proposing that big companies perform thorough due diligence and adopt a transition path. This plan should ensure that the business model and strategy of the company are compatible with the transition to a sustainable economy, in particular the target to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees as set out in the Paris Agreement. We know that what we are asking of companies and the financial system is not easy, but we need everyone on board when it comes to meeting the climate challenge. I would also ask you to see this work not as a burden, but rather as an opportunity. To be a front runner, to be noticed for leading the way and to be credible. To attract young people who are passionate about the climate as customers, clients and employees. To provide new products and services that rely on trusted EU labels to show your environmental commitment. Above all, to do the right thing and to help us meet our climate goals. We know that people care about sustainability and climate change, and we know that business leaders want to act. We also know that the financial world wants to engage on sustainable finance. My work is building with you a sustainable finance ecosystem that takes us together in the same direction so that we can make a difference together. Thank you for your attention.